We got some really wild news today, guys, that I think probably could be the worst idea ever. What's going on, everybody? You're watching the channel Dr. Applesauce 2. My name's Will. It's another beautiful day here in Texas. I hope you guys know that I love you, God loves you, and He has a wonderful plan for your life. Today, guys, GameStop is, I guess they haven't made an official announcement, but this is happening. GameStop is going to start buying Pokemon cards from people for trade-ins and then selling singles in the stores. You heard me right. GameStop is going to start buying Pokemon cards from people, taking Pokemon cards as trade-ins, and then selling singles in stores. And we'll read into the details of it, but basically they're just gonna start off right now only accepting PSA cards, and there's a lot to this. I'll talk about my opinions here in a second, but I want to know, on your first hearing this, as you initially hear this right away, what do you think about this? What do you think about GameStop buying cards or accepting cards for trade-in value, only PSA cards, only PSA graded cards to start off with, and then accepting those for trade-in value? What do you think about that? So let's jump over here to the article. I'm going to read this part of the article to you real quick. This is from PokeBeach, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on why I think this is such a bad idea for so many reasons. Let's jump over here to this article real quick. So this is on PokeBeach. Basically, it says this news has been in the works for months. We can reveal that starting next week, select GameStop stores in the U.S. will begin buying graded trading cards from customers, including Pokemon. The company will sell the graded cards on GameStop.com. Eventually, the program will expand to all locations. So this is eventually going to come to all GameStop locations. As with their game trade-ins, customers will be able to sell their graded Pokemon cards to GameStop for cash or store credit. We're going to get back to that here in a second. Have you ever sold anything to GameStop? You know how much they give you for when you sell stuff? It's currently unclear how GameStop will determine the value of the cards. One store manager we spoke to who worked with GameStop to test this program stated, GameStop's leaders believe this is the obvious next step for the company. Physical media is waning, especially for video games. It was time for the company to branch out to trading cards. They are the future. I do not disagree with that. GameStop will initially accept PSA 8 cards and higher, and cards valued at $500 or more will not be accepted. Graded cards from companies like CGC and Beckett will not be allowed yet either. Most notably for Pokemon fans, GameStop will begin selling Pokemon singles in store. They will launch with $1 holos and reverse holos. There's no holo out there unless it's vintage that's worth $1, much less a reverse holo. What the crap? Who's going to be buying these holos and reverse holos for $1? Other bundles of cards may be offered in the future. Some pilot locations tested additional products such as bundles of commons and uncommons, but those have been cut, because nobody wants to buy those. GameStop will be sourcing the cards from the secondary market. GameStop specifically wants to sell Pokemon cards. Simply put, Pokemon is GameStop's fastest selling TCG, and it's by far the most popular franchise. They want to sell cards like a local game store. Okay, there's a lot to break down here, guys. There's a lot as to why I think this is not a good idea. So let's first and foremost, let's look at how they're wanting to buy cards or accept cards as trade-ins. Okay, so they're only wanting to go for PSA cards, so only PSA 8 and higher, so only the nicer end of PSA graded cards, and nothing that's worth over $500 in value, which is understandable. They don't want to be taking in something that's, vintage and worth $20,000. I get that. I guess that's a good caveat. So they're starting off with only PSA 8 and higher, and so the nicer things, right? But here's the thing that's crazy about this. If you've ever watched it, have you ever tried to sell something to GameStop? Have you ever gone? They give you 25 cents for something that's worth $10. They give you next to nothing for your trade-ins. I don't see them really changing the policy in regards to Pokemon cards. I saw Pokeballers on Instagram. He mentioned something, and he said, when I thought it was really appropriate, it's going to be terrible to see somebody taking a PSA 8 base set Charizard and getting a trade-in value for an elite trainer box of the brand new modern set. That's probably likely the valuations and the type of crap trades that people are going to get who just don't know. And it says that it's unclear how GameStop's going to be determining the value of their cards. Well, if they're only taking in PSA cards, there's no way to determine the actual value of these cards except for using things like eBay and looking up market prices. And a big issue that I have with this is no disrespect to GameStop employees, okay? GameStop employees don't get paid a lot. They get hammered to have to offer all these stupid add-ons and stuff all the time that kind of makes the customer experience a little a little annoying, to be honest, from a customer's perspective. And so how are we going to expect these GameStop employees to actually know what they're talking about for the Pokemon card market and for Pokemon cards? Now, it's one thing when you go into a local game store and you know this is what they deal in. They deal in the secondary market of cards. They deal in trading cards. But GameStop has so much in their store besides just trading cards that that's going to make it a little bit difficult. Next, it says we're talking about one of the managers saying that this is the obvious choice for GameStop because trading cards are the future. Yes, obviously, I think trading cards, there's always going to be a market for people who actually want physical trading cards. A lot of people are moving towards buying digital media for their video games. I don't necessarily support that. I like actually having physical copies of things because what happens if the internet goes down? What happens if you lose your internet? You don't have your games. We've seen this with Funimation getting ported over to Crunchyroll in the anime sphere, that sometimes you don't really own these digital things. You know, it can be taken away. I like to have physical copies of things, and that's why trading cards are always going to be in demand and in popular. And yeah, obviously GameStop is seeing this and they want to move into this direction, which is, I think, a good thing, but this is a corporate company wanting to take on an LGS model, and I'm just not sure how it's going to work out. It says GameStop will initially accept PSA cards or higher. That's actually cool. Okay, I get it. They want to stick with just the higher end of things, and they're not going to be accepting CGC and Beckett. So obviously, if they're wanting to do something like this, they're going to want to keep everything honed in. Let's just focus on PSA 8 and above, nothing more valuable than $500, and kind of see how it goes from there. I get that. I understand why they want to do it that way, but it's just so strange to me that they're wanting to move to this LGS style of system. And it says Pokemon fans are going to be able to sell singles or GameStop will begin selling singles in store. Do you think GameStop's going to actually, okay, let's look at this. So if we want to buy some Pokemon card singles, what do? We go to our LGS or TCG player, right? If I go to my LGS, I know I've got probably like 3 or 4 LGSs in my head that I know I can go in there and look at cards, and I know that they're going to be priced accordingly, and I probably will have, they're going to be priced properly, right? And I have the ability to negotiate and say, hey, I want to negotiate on this price. Maybe this price hasn't been updated in a long time. Maybe I know that they've just got a little bit, they put a 10% premium on top of it for the convenience fee, and I want to, try and negotiate that down. If I go into an LGS, I know I can do that because the employees there actually understand the market and actually have the ability to look at these things critically and make these decisions. When I go into GameStop, I don't have that confidence because it's going to be a corporate run store and there is no negotiating. You don't go into GameStop and say, hey, you've got this used game for sale for $45. I wouldn't mind taking it, but can I get it for 40? Like Market, look, here's some Market. Market says it's selling for about 35, 40 bucks. I'll pick it up for 40 instead of 45. You can't do that at GameStop because it's a corporate run location and the employees just clock in and they have to do what they're told to do. So that's going to be a very interesting piece of this, is they're wanting to adopt this LGS style store, but they're going to be corporate. And so corporate and LGS don't really go hand in hand. It's not going to be the same thing. And I'm not exactly sure. I could see this turning out to be okay if it's done right, but I just don't see GameStop doing it right. For one, they give you pennies on the dollar for your trade-ins, right? If I'm going to take, $1,000 worth of Pokemon cards to my LGS, I can be confident that if it's a good collection, they're probably going to give me at least 50 to 60% on the dollar for that collection and then put it up for about 100%. If I take $1,000 worth of video games to GameStop, I might get $150 of trade-in value. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be the same exact model that they're going to adopt when people want to bring in cards. It's very strange that they're making this shift because I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go. And then the next point is they're going to have singles for sale in store. Okay, how are they going to do this? And they're going to have hollows and reverse hollows for $1? Who's buying hollows for $1? Nobody's buying reverse hollows for $1. That just shows, if that's actually how that's going to happen and how that's actually going to roll out, that just shows that they're out of touch with the Pokemon community for something that they really want to move into. Nobody's buying hollows for $1 unless they're vintage. Nobody's buying reverse hollows for $1 pretty much, period. And it said they also tested having bulk lots of commons and uncommons, but nobody bought those. Obviously, nobody's buying those because nobody wants those. So it's the stuff that they're already testing and the little bit of information that they're already putting out there doesn't make me confident that they're gonna be able to do this right, or that they even have the right plan to do it. And honestly, like, I grew up with GameStop. I grew up with FuncoLand. Who remembers FuncoLand? I grew up with FuncoLand that like turned into GameStop. And honestly, GameStop hasn't been doing well for a long time. I think it's part and parcel because so many people are buying their games digitally, and because they honestly force their employees to hammer you with all these sales and these signups and these pre-orders and stuff all the time that makes the customer experience in certain stores a little lackluster. I do have a specific GameStop that's in my area that I like going to because they're great. They don't do that to me, and I enjoy going there and spending money, but I'm not sure how going from that to TCG Focus is going to work, especially when we already have local game stores in the community that do this well and that do this with a high level of knowledge. And I don't have confidence that, you know, the Joe Schmo that works at GameStop that gets paid $12 an hour that's just trying to pay his bills is going to know about Pokemon cards, right? Who knows what this system is going to be? So honestly, I don't mean to speak ill of GameStop, but this kind of reeks of desperation, in my opinion. Seems like a desperate move to save the company. I can't blame them for attempting to save the company, but I don't know if I think it's the right move. This is a very odd turn of events. I don't think it's going to work out. I want it to work out. I want them to come out with like an awesome plan and like, this is going to be great and this is going to be awesome and this is going to be a great new thing for Pokemon card collectors. They've even been testing like some, you know, play in-person events. And so does that mean maybe they're going to start having like actual, you know, tournament events in GameStop stores? Who knows? So I would love for this to work out properly. I'm just not sure I see it actually being something that goes well. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment down below. Do you think GameStop will be able to pull this off? How do you think this stuff will go? I'm very curious to see how this goes. This is just brand new information, and apparently it's supposed to start happening next week. So let me know down in the comments below what you think about this whole situation. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. It's actually free for you to give it a thumbs up, and it helps so much. You can subscribe and hit that notification bell. All those things are free, and they help the channel a ton. And if you enjoyed this video, check that one out next. YouTube says you'll probably like that one. And like I always say, my friends, find somebody to love and serve today. Be the change you want to see in the world. See you next time.